Trump is going to lose to the Supreme Court around tariffs, and that means we're going to have to pay back all of this money. That is a risk in the economy, according to Taylor from Life Goal Investments. I've taken his 60-second Instagram post or reel, and we got to break it down in detail because this is monstrous. This will impact, and this will not be pretty if Trump truly loses this tariff battle in the Supreme Court. So, Taylor, let's step back. Let's talk about the Supreme Court. Let's talk about the rule that he is leveraging to institute these, and then finally hit him with why you think he's going to lose it.
Yeah. So it's been struck down in 2 courts already, 2 for 2, denied. And I think that the Supreme Court will follow. So let's take a step back and just see what Trump's tariffs are predicated on and what act that they are referencing. So it's the IEEPA Act, which is the International Economic Emergency Policy Act. If that's not perfect, it's close. And essentially that was an act that was back in 1977, and it was put in place to step around Congress and not have them have to approve swift action that needed to be taken to deter an action by another country. And what those actions were hostages, were nuclear weapons, were things of these grand magnitudes that needed very swift, decisive action and didn't have to go through the political machine, right? And so Trump has now declared an emergency that is our debt situation. And so our debt situation is a deficit that's $37 trillion or whatever it is. And that is what he is declaring as the emergency. And then the tool he is utilizing to fix it are tariffs. So then let's think about this. There has never, ever been mention of anything within the IEEPA Act, anything about tariffs. So tariffs are not something, they talk about things like sanctions as tools that can be utilized. Tariffs are not mentioned. And then also, they don't mention national debt as an issue that is an emergency. And it's funny when you take a step back and try to call it an emergency, because since 1970 until this year, we've had 4 years where we have not run a deficit.
Right.
So we've been in emergency policy for 50 straight years, right? And so, and maybe, and I think Trump's point is at some point it comes to a head, and therefore it all of a sudden becomes an emergency. And I think that something that is a slow build like this, not something that has blindsided you out of nowhere, and it's self-inflicted, which is what the court of DC said when they struck it down. This is a self-inflicted pain that does not actually have international economic emergency tied to it, and therefore they voted it down. So I'll pause there, and then we can go on to the construct of the courts and the members also to discuss why I think it's really likely to get struck down.
No, I think I love all of that kind of background. Again, I actually want to get to the court next, because I think that was the one aha moment I had in your video. And again, I haven't thought about it, right? The construction of the court. And I think that's really where this is going to be, decided, is the construction of the court. So why don't you talk about that, and then I have more questions. But why does the construction of the court almost guarantee Trump's going to lose this battle, in your opinion?
Yeah, so it's what they call a 3-3-3 court right now. So it's split. So you've got 3 activist conservatives on one side, and they'll almost undoubtedly vote for Trump. Although I have heard some folks say that the letter of the writing is so far astray from what he's claiming that even might lose those, and it might be a decisive 9-0 vote. Then you have 3 leftists, which by nature are already predisposed to voting down. And then you have 3 strict constructionists, is what they call them. And that's a style of judgery where they just
letter of the law.
Letter of the law. That's it. And that's Gorsuch, Alito, and Thomas are the 3 of them. And they make it very clear that there's not any language in the IEEPA Act to justify what's going on here. And I want to be clear on my end. Like, I'm not pro anti-Trump or tariff. My is to stand back and look at the law, which is what the Supreme Court is bound to rule upon, and say, with 3 conservatives, if he gets those, that's 3 leftists, he's not getting those, and then 3 strict constructionists. It doesn't sound like he has any way where he gets better than a 6-3 no vote out of this.
Wow. And again, the reason we're having this conversation, because again, if it goes 6-3 or even 5-4 for whatever reason and loses this, we will have to refund all or at least most of the collection already. And that's not going to be free. That's going to cost money also. So not only do you have a refund, but then you have the cost of doing the refund. Is that accurate?
Yeah, it'll be interesting to see that play out because most of the Trump tariffs that have been put in place are through the IEEPA Act. Not all of them are. So let me be clear on that because you drew that line of distinction well. But most of them are. And so it becomes this then economic kind of question where and market question, to be very clear, because the market absolutely threw up on itself on Friday. So let's be
Yes.
clear on that. And it threw up on itself.
That was
worse
that
back
was
in
a signal, I think. And that's why I think your conversation about the construction of the court is so valuable, because if Friday should have been a lesson to folks. If this tariff thing goes the wrong way, and again, 6-3 is how the court's constructed, that it could be that kind of reaction on steroids.
Yeah. Yeah. And so, okay. I'm really trying to figure out what the market feels about tariffs now, because tariffs at first scared the hell out of the market. The market sold
Sure.
off, 20% in April.
Yeah, I remember.
And now it's okay, we're going to put more tariffs on China, and that scared the market again. But what happens if the market or the court, essentially says no, and we aren't allowed to do tariffs anymore? Does that actually give us some relief to this pressure and a rally? I don't think so. I think confusion is what it creates, and I don't think that the market likes confusion. But yeah,
well, here's the other thing. This is what I've been thinking about, because I've been looking at this for a while. And again, it's really interesting. The courts did go 2-0, striking down tariffs, pushing it to the Supreme Court, but not all tariffs, right? I believe, for example, steel,
correct,
is a tariff that is still in force and approved, right? Because it's siloed in specific.
Yep.
So what I think comes out of this is, again, it gets more siloed in Pacific. And what happens is we don't do the IE, whatever the heck it is, EEE thing. They find another, roundabout. Because again, even the two courts that said no bueno, they did say okay to steel, right?
Correct.
So,
correct. Yep. And that's why we'll be giving some and not all back. But it just is now this like vicious cycle of going back to the same conversation we were having in April of, if you're a CEO and you're trying to set up a supply chain somewhere and you really have no idea what the hell is going on, how does that impact things? And what's been remarkable is that at least thus far, we have not seen a meaningful impact by tariffs.
No, not at the consumer level.
Very de minimis, right?
No, not at the consumer level. Yeah.
So it'll be interesting to see how much was eaten by the private industries that are importers of this goods, how much was eaten by them, and then how much will continue to be eaten by them.
I just had just a complete spark of a question. So let's just assume for a minute that it goes this way and Trump loses 6-3. And, we end up having tariffs on things like, I don't know, steel and, whatever, right? A small subset that, let's just say, makes up 20% of the economy. I'm just making up a what if in this case. Mm-hmm. But the Fed right now, right? I don't know. So of the 18 or 19 members, I'm going to guess 12 to 14 of them are spooked about tariffs. So if those suddenly go away and, suddenly inflation's not the boogeyman in the mirror anymore. And, oh, by the way, the job market's shit. What happens to the Fed? Do we just go back to zero? I mean, what the heck happens at the Fed level?
I think it definitely would provide more room for downside protection with the Fed, more room for interest rate cuts, to be clear.
Oh, cuts.
Yeah. So, yeah, I mean, their thought process, and it hasn't played out dramatically, is that you'll get at least a one-time shock, a higher with these tariffs, and we haven't seen it. Right? Inflation's not going the right direction. Let me be clear. For 4 straight months.
That's what they keep saying.
That's what they keep saying. It's coming. That's what they keep saying. And right, wrong, or we won't know until hindsight. But but yeah, if there isn't that boogeyman of okay, it's coming, it's then okay, what is the downside risk to cutting interest rates now when it seems pretty darn clear that you have a weakening of the job market? And, the BLS didn't show last month, so we don't really know what the hell's going on at this point, but the private market data didn't look good.
No, I was just going to ask about that private data, because again, not only did we get ADP, which was a disaster, but Bank of America and other institutions are publishing their surveys now. And I thought the most important line of the Bank of America survey was unemployment checks or deposits to Bank of America customers is up 10% year on year.
Interesting.
Hello.
Yeah.
Yeah, that came out over the weekend. Again, you can probably just Google Bank of America survey. But again, it's very telling. Again, Bank of America survey like that data is obviously very finite. But again, Bank of America is so large.
Yeah.
You got to assume if that's happening at Bank of America, it's also at Wells Fargo and it's also at JP Morgan. It may not be exactly 10% because they have different client base, but it's not zero at these other institutions.
No, it's not. Yeah. And I mean, it doesn't take. It's funny. You saw very subtle weakening basically throughout the year in the jobs market. And then it did seem like it became more pronounced over the past 3, maybe even 4 months.
I think so.
And it's really hard to argue against it at this point. And so, I mean, that gives way to the downside in the Fed that you're looking for or alluding to there.
Yeah, again, if the tariff thing goes away and the boogeyman leaves, again, this assumed Trump loses at the Supreme Court, the Fed's going to have a really hard time not cutting by 50 like multiple times in a row because this is a problem. So
yeah,
can't believe it. I guess the last thing we should talk about is we got earnings season starting tomorrow with the big banks, really all the financial institutions. Any thoughts on the big banks as we enter the season?
I always like to look at the banks for the consumer. They have as good a lens as to the point you just made there, basically on unemployment, right? It's just they have the broadest stroke of consumer information, I think, that anybody does. And so we'll see what's going on with credit cards. We'll see what's going on with credit in general. We'll see what's going on with, all of the consumer data gets spilt out by the banks.
Love it. Taylor, where can people find you?
Yeah, find us on Instagram. We're on TikTok. We're at Life Goal Investments, doing 60 seconds of videos a day. Dude, 60 seconds of video, 10 minutes of value. Folks, go check them out, Life Goal Investments. Thanks You're the
again.
man, Michael. Thanks so much.